So, welcome back to Writers Room Retcon on our channel Screen Block. If you've watched other videos, you know what to expect. If not, this is the channel where we take a franchise as it is and talk about what would we do to fix it? Would we add, change it? What would we do? And we try and write a new film in an hour.
Yeah, and so what are we doing today, Mike?
So this month, or for this video, we are looking at Avatar. So one of the biggest production films ever made, with two men in a garage trying to fix it.
And there is a sequel coming out, isn't there?
There is, yes.
We'll get into the details of it at the table, but you ready to do this thing?
Yeah.
All right, let's go for it.
Avatar.
Avatar, I need some pens. Get my cable.
Okay.
Still new microphones, Michael.
Indeed. So, this is the point, again, if you're new, where we kind of hash out where this franchise is. And this is quite a unique one we're looking at, because actually as it stands, there's only one film that's been released. So Avatar, which most people I'm assuming have heard of, is the highest grossing film of all time, which was guaranteed it was going to launch.
Did it still was the case of it being the highest, or
yes.
Did Endgame knock it?
Endgame did, but then it was re-released in China because they were looking for films to get the cinema going, and it pushed it back up. And then as we speak right now, it's having a 4K release, so I think it's guaranteed the top spot even further.
So it came out in 2009.
Yep.
And we got a new one coming out December.
Yeah, so December I want to say it's the 21st.
And we know it's got something about water. Water's in the title.
Yep. I have seen the teaser trailer because...
Yeah. You're a fan.
As we're going to discuss, I am a fan of Avatar. I do like it. But interestingly enough, I'm guessing because of the success of the film, there are supposedly 7 films in the running, according to IMDb and James Cameron confirming that there'll be others. So Avatar 2 comes out the end of this year. They are definitely planning on keeping it going. I have even heard that Disney, that now own Avatar, having acquired 20th Century Fox, or 20th Century Fox rather, are making an Avatar theme park. There's also a video game coming out. There were a couple of video games, but there's a brand new one coming out.
Ubisoft, isn't it?
Yeah, so although it's a film from 2009, I think given the impact it had and the money it made, this is a franchise that's just taken a while to get going, but has never been or was never planned on being abandoned. So Jim, good old Jim Cameron, bless him, is the master of filmmaking. He is absolutely superb.
So what's bad news for us today is he's the master of sequels.
He is. So I have a feeling that this video is going to get dated very quick when the new one comes out. But it's coming up to Christmas. This film is coming up before Christmas. We felt like it was a good one to tackle. And the whole point of this video is, could we do better? I'm not sure we can. But the nice thing is we will find out with this one, because the sequel has been confirmed, but we have not watched it yet.
So, before we get into this thing, you are a fan of Avatar.
I am a fan of Avatar, yes. I understand a lot of people don't like it because it's Fern Gully or Pocahontas with giant blue people. But for me, step aside from the visuals, which are obviously outstanding, I like the simplicity of the story. I like how they've taken, I don't think it's any different than transferring an old Romeo and Juliet, or how Hamlet's is basically ran and all that. I think it's just a classic story that's just been updated for the modern age, and I was in.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I really dislike it. I wouldn't dislike it strong. The kind of like, the message being that aliens are good, humans are bad, is just like, okay.
Yeah, I admit that it is not.
But this is what's interesting for me doing this one, is that like, I think there's been some sequels made not too long ago where you get the impression that the filmmakers didn't like the series they were writing for and wanted to kind of shape it in their own vision. Now, I don't think this is my place to be kind of like trying to bend the will of Avatar to what I want it to be. And that's the thing, is that like, it's done plenty good enough and I'm working for this. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's not like this was a failed film and you can say, well, here's where you went wrong, because...
So as an exercise for today, like it's a case of me being like, my personal kind of thing is that like, I've got to get out of the way of myself and my politics and my thought and try to serve this film.
Yes.
and which I hoped would have happened with those other film franchises, which maybe not. And we're going to get into them at some point in time.
100%. So I just realised there's probably the wrong way up for our video.
Oh, yeah.
See, we're still getting used to this, still new, something different every video.
Yeah.
So usually we start off by talking about key themes of the film, like things that exist.
Yeah,
in the franchise, we'd actually start off by writing out all the different films in the series.
Yes.
There is only one. So this makes sense that this one will be the second one. And I'm assuming that we will just be taking it as...
No, I'm going to go from the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's do a prequel.
Let's do a prequel to Avatar. It's just called Tar. I'll start this one.
Please.
One of the things that's key to this is obviously, as we've said before, is kind of like nature versus machine. You've got like the natural versus the, I don't know what you'd call it, like the natural order of things versus like the will of man.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And with that, like you've got like on the, I think this has covered it enough, but it's sort of like it's military and kind of, but it's there in the natural versus the will of man. But like obviously in Avatar 1, that was really represented with the military stuff with its drop ships and all that cool stuff.
100%.
And the natural and nature is obviously the focal point of that was their great big tree thing which they had, but it's just the wildlife and the are they Navi? Isn't it?
Nahai. No, Nahari is the character. Navi. The Navi.
Don't you start with me.
The
but
Navi.
Yeah, so I think that sums it up great.
Which is something that I'm going to put in as well, is this idea of tribes, because I know a lot of the background from this and all the research that James Cameron went through and everything else, and it is very much about indigenous cultures and tribes.
In Avatar 1, there's that section where they sort of go around to the other tribes to kind of rally them to beat up the humans.
Yes.
Do you remember they sort of go off and they sort of tell the story to all the other surrounding tribes?
I remember very well. You've seen it twice. I've seen it lots of times. I guarantee. Yeah.
Don't you go flexing on me, Michael?
For your people and our grandchildren. Yep, I remember very well. So I'm going to put tribes and indigenous culture because I think that's a key theme that should run through all of Avatar's sequels.
The only thing which I've really got, which I'm sure you already know, is that like I think big part of Avatar is like wonder and seeing things we've never seen before.
Yeah, I love that. Wonder. Yeah.
Like it's the spectacle. I think it's still probably the best looking movie ever made. Probably.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. It's seamless. And when it's a 2009, like that's the crazy thing.
It looks better than most films made now.
Yeah.
And I know that like it costs more than most films made now, but this is like over a decade's worth of technology and it's still not being beaten.
No. And
really? I don't think.
No. And again, I know we're going to keep talking about James Cameron, but it is his Avatar. Like usually when they say a film by, it's like he was a director that's taking a bit more credit. I know that James worked on the technology, the story, the structure, the language, everything.
So you're on first name terms with him.
You're Jim.
Oh, Jim.
You're old Jim. No, I've just seen enough interviews to know that's what people call him to work with him, and I liked it so much. So I was like, good old Jim.
I'm only pulling your plonker, Michael. Sorry, no. What were you going to say?
So I feel like we've summed up like the kind of the main themes. So last video we did this as the timer was starting. I think probably makes sense to do it this time. If you're new to this, one of the things we do is the 3-act structure. Are we ready to introduce this at this point?
Yeah, could you just the board wipers just on your side? I'm not being rude, but
no problem.
Thank you.
There you go.
Because I think we give ourselves a little space there. So yeah, do you want to talk through the 3 acts and I'll draw it out?
Yeah, perfect. So again, we didn't invent this, but most films and most people that talk about writing talk about the 3-act structure. The idea of the opening, the conflict, the resolution. However, we have, through our years of working on these sort of things and doing stuff, added in the 0.1, which isn't ours. It exists in films, but this idea of, I mean, I always say you summed it up best, but you did, which is the promise. So how the film begins, is it going to be a horror film, then it's a killing at the start. It's basically setting out the film. How does it open? Then the 3-act structure. So we have our 3 acts. Matthew.
Do you want me to set the timer?
30 minutes on that clock.
Yeah, so we've got an hour to do this.
I also have a Starbucks I'm going to go back to. This isn't a Game of Thrones left it in the scene kind of thing. This is a I need caffeine.
I think it could be. Right, there we go. So let's hit it. Oh, we haven't done this.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, right. Avatar. How do you want to handle this? Do you want me to be saying, because I haven't got as much to say, I don't think.
It's up to you. There are points. Have you got something like an idea or a shape around?
So that's a great way to put it. So what I did is I was thinking about Avatar and that sort of stuff, and I've got like a few things. So we know that water is in this one. So I kind of was like, went with water stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
Did you do water stuff?
I did, and actually we talked about doing Avatar a while before the trailer dropped. So I hate that kind of like, to my credit, but I'm well aware that Jim is obsessed with the water. Like he's one of the few people that owns his own submarines. He did it all with the research of Titanic.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a feeling that water was going to be in a possible sequel. The fact that it's called The Way of the Water or Way of the something. But as I said, I've seen the trailer and it looks like water's a big thing. So mine did involve water, but not as massive.
I've got an all watery. How do we do this, Mike? We've been spent 1 minute and 10 seconds discussing how we're even going to get
right. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do is summarize how I would start it and why. I think the end of Avatar ends with Jake getting transferred over to his avatar for full. The company have been knocked off the rock. Have been sent away from Pandora.
Yeah, a few humans are allowed to knock around, but most of them have been
sent away, and it looks like everyone's won the day.
Yes.
Now the reality is they were there because they wanted to mine for unobtainium, which I am going to say, doing a little bit of research before we started this, is an actual term. So those people that would knock it, and I was one of them, being like unobtainium, like you've created Avatar and you couldn't think of something more
stupid, right?
Is actually the correct term for material out in space, like hypothetical material. It's an actual scientific name for it. But they obviously spent billions upon billions to go there. I don't imagine that just because one blue dude would put them off. Yes. So I don't think in any way, and I don't think even Jake would recognise that they'd won. Like there's a bit of victory at the end, but for me, I think it's very obvious the company are coming back. So I went with 3 different storylines for this.
All right.
Okay. So do you want to hear my early idea and I give you...
I think just give me...
All right. Okay. So on one side, you have got the company coming back and their job is to take over. But in this case, it's also the public image. So everything that happened on Pandora obviously would have been reported on and stuff like that. There's even a bit where the guy says, do you know what shareholders hate worse than like images of death and stuff is poor profits.
Yeah.
So the company has sent them back. So I imagine that you've got the company coming back, but they are very aware of their public image. So they're coming back with this kind of like everything's okay, nice guy routine, because obviously the reason why the people ran up against him is because they destroyed Home Tree. I imagine through leaks and stuff like that we would discover. So basically the company's lost its image, but there's too much money. They've gone back to take it over, but they're more aware of how their public image is. On the other side, you've got Jake. And he is now, I'm guessing because he is, I'm assuming, married or with the woman that is the chief of the tribe in the Avatar.
Yeah, they were talking about that.
Yeah, and the main chief guy actually dies, so it would make sense that Chief S would take over. So Jake is in charge of his tribe. Now, obviously, in Avatar, you've got that bit where he unites the different tribes and stuff like that. But they talk about the whole of Pandora. And what I would imagine is when the dust settled, his people, his tribe would be like, he led us to victory. And he's like Namar or whatever, this like legend of this flying one. How quickly would that run out? And with all these different tribes and all these different factions and these different things, how quickly would they then be like, he's not one of us? And so I imagine you've got Jake trying to kind of settle tribal wars that have broken out over the fact that you have a few tribes that are very loyal to Jake Sully and what he's done, but the others that are like, you caused this. The other one I've got
So let me get this right, that this is all happening concurrent.
This is all happening concurrent. You've also got the science element of this. And at the end of Avatar, they said there were scientists that were staying on Pandora to do all this.
Do this stuff.
Yeah. And I would imagine it's the scientists that are doing more research into the planet. And that's what's going on. So I imagine it. What I imagine is that these are the three main storylines that kind of interlink together. And I'm imagining it as kind of like an overhead is Jake is dealing with kind of like civil war with different tribes, maybe a few of his own people trying to take him out or something like that. In fact, that's actually how I imagine it started, is Jake with his children and his wife and foiling an assassination attempt by another tribe to kill him, which is then them to realise that their peaceful talks aren't working, they need to be a bit tougher. So he is essentially, the beginning of the film starts with his tribe going to war with other tribes. So you have this crossing over whilst Jake is trying to explain to them that the company are going to come back and that they need to prepare. And they're saying, you just want to stay in power, you're not one of us.
Yeah.
Like all these different...
Typical human.
Yeah, exactly. All going over the stuff. In the meantime, the company do arrive and they're broadcasting this idea of actually, you know, like we're peaceful, we're loving, they've got their avatars. But what they do is quickly realise through their own things, the scientists doing the research, that actually a lot of the scientists that stayed behind were company men that were just gathering information they could use. And they're the ones that report to the company and say, there's this war going on, and so they see this great opportunity. So they approach the warring faction against Jake's side as these wonderful people. Everything's going well. Can we build this here? We'll give you the weapons you need to stand off. And so you have the bad tribe that are misled into believing that Jake is their enemy, not the company, and is fighting them. At this point, as it's going on, they're kind of documenting everything they do, trying to start up. Because again, when you flew over Avatar, I don't imagine they'd have to bring much with them. It's all there. So I imagine that you could have the stuff with the water, perhaps like as in drilling, like offshore drilling, which is obviously a big thing at the moment in this country. And all. So they're trying to get the drill going. It's in this enemy territories. So they're perpetuating this. Jake's crazy, like he kicked us all out. We're actually here to do good. You know, it's an ex-employee of ours that's like, you know, gaslighting him kind of thing. As Jake is fighting these tribes and they get the weapons and stuff like that, the drill goes and it starts destroying like really rapidly. And very quickly, this bad tribe realised, just like in Avatar 1, that actually like they've been on the wrong side this whole time. Jake has been telling the truth. And so they team up together to take on the rigs and everything else. The difference being with this one is I would end it on the cliffhanger of we're going to stop you from destroying our homes. And this is my ending, is they get there, they overpower the rigs. They're like, you know, you're going to cause all these problems. I don't know what, we haven't ironed it out yet, but maybe there's like a fault line and that's what they're worried about. And it ends with them realizing that they were too late and places have been destroyed and basically most of Jake's tribe is wiped out. At the same time, the scientists that are doing the research have worked out who has been betraying them, get rid of it, and are able to correctly document what's going on. And so they prove through their documentation and research that not only is the company behind all of this, but they're actually destroying Pandora, leaving a possible sequel to be that what's left of the army are stuck on Pandora. There aren't more coming, and it's the leftover bad guys. That's as I kind of imagined it.
That's good. That's lovely. And I think that what I thought of, I think we're going to be able to infuse it into it, which is the best case, right?
Nice.
Because what I was thinking of is that actually I don't really want to do, I just want to concentrate on what you got there, because I think there's a key thing which I had, which is a sea monster. For the wonder thing. So look, what I want to look at, right, is that I was going to have the notion that the big kind of main thing is in the water, and that water, because the water creatures, the blue guys, they don't go into the water.
Yeah.
And the water things don't go on the land. And so I was going to have it so that there is a weird Lovecraftian tentacled beast in the middle of the water, and the humans stir the thing up.
Love it.
And so I was going to have it so that in my way of thinking, which is why I'm saying I think we jettison that and kind of infuse it into this. Because and I think what I was going to do is have the the kind of the hovering rock place, which kind of messes with all their controls and stuff. That somehow or another that's got something to do with the weird. Because it's, as I say, I was thinking of some sort of interdimensional Lovecraftian beast which just sits in the middle of this thing, and those weird rocks are kind of part of its kind of interdimensional weirdness.
I love it.
So what I was thinking is that there's a couple of stuff which I was we could make this work. Is that if the your scientists so
literally writing it down.
So if with this 3-strand, right, if we do it like this, if I can draw on your stuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, draw all over.
But so it's where are they? Where do they want to go? So where are they at the beginning? Where do they want to be at the end? And what's stopping them from getting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if scientists, because if you remember, they'll kind of hit up on those rocks. So they're these rocks are kind of weird and all that sort of stuff. And so that's where we start to get hints of interdimensional weird Leviathan bog beast. I love the tribal infighting thing, but I thought you said something in there which I was I think that's things double down as, because we want to make the important thing with this movie is that the blue people are good and are able to work together, and just basically they're good. There's no bad in the blue people. The only time they're sort of a bit weird is when they were when it's a bit who the fuck's this human coming to us?
Yeah.
But I really liked your bad tribe and the poisoning nature of the humans kind of messing with it. And so it's not enough that the humans are poisoning the planet, but they're also poisoning the minds of these people. And so, do you remember in Planet of the Apes, the new one, where you had Koba, who was doing a bit of he was useful, but he was kind of just nuts.
Yeah.
And it's that, I think that's the interest. So rather than, because I think the other tribes, because they're meant to be good guys, and so if we have one tribe which is being messed with by the humans, and so it sort of focuses rather than Jake having to deal with all sectors, it's one thing, and so it's he's overcome everybody else, and
I like that more. It also gives a kind of rather than bigger scope, it kind of,
and it means that you can have him versus one, which would be a real nice spectacle.
Kind of a bit like how he's against the general at the end. They've got the one guy, you've got this one other. Nahiri.
I love the drill thing. What I was thinking of is that I was thinking of that the humans basically were sod getting unobtainium from the land, let's do it out at sea.
Mm-hmm.
But the image of a big weird drill thing, an oil platform, but with some sort of crazy kind of stuff.
Yeah, because there's that shot in Avatar where they fly over and you see the crater they're digging in, and it has those gigantic drills.
Yeah, the huge.
But there's kind of a scale. So you see that shot where that thing goes past and the wheel is bigger than a house,
the arrows
and it's got the arrows in it. And then there's that other shot when you see it and it's about that big next to the giant drilling thing, and it's just they have all the equipment.
And so if the corporation are coming back, and they're drilling, and I think that that's the thing which disturbs weird, ancient, bizarre, Lovecraftian.
Love it. And then
and what I thought is that part of that fight could be that the weird Lovecraftian beast, it only understands that water is the top of its world, and outside of that space, so it just sees blue people and white people and whatever other colours there are all over the place as just all aliens, and they're all invading its land. And so, but I couldn't quite. So I was thinking of my final battle would be some sort of almost a Clash of the Titans dealing with a big
love it.
Coming out.
You could also have that the scientists that are there are doing more research into unobtainium. Obviously, fossil fuels come from old fossils. What if unobtainium is what's broken down when these big giant creatures die? So that's why, millions of years ago, they died on land. Land's formed around them because their bodies crystallize and everything else.
That's awesome.
And so then that's what the scientists are discovering. And so you've got two sets of scientists, the one that are helping the company and the other ones that are trying to find out more about unobtainium.
So if this diagram, if I could just sort of start it afresh from here. So if we've got Jake, he's looking to get he's just wanting to live his life, and he's got his kids, which can be used to kind of like express exposition to them. Hello, Basil.
Austrian.
To kind of like, you know, that's what we use as our device to kind of catch people up.
Yep, exactly.
But his little fight is that like the humans have kind of like polluted the minds of one of them. So he's at this place where life's tickety-boo. Some humans kind of like poison the minds of like other blue people, and he wins them back over. So he ultimately overcomes bad tribe. So bad tribe come in, overcomes bad tribe.
Yep.
Scientists are dealing with like interdimensional bog monster, and so ultimately they want unobtainium and bog monster to go away. Corporation wants unobtainium, so I guess they're actually more up there. What we need to make sure we do is we kind of like line all of these, that they crisscross up in a kind of like, so it makes sense that the corporation poisoning, so you've already done it in your story where like the corporation are poisoning the mind of another tribe to kind of like mess with stuff and like, you know, maybe giving them access to firearms and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so like, and that's part of the corporation coming back. Wouldn't it be cool to get someone like, I don't know if he's still alive, but the guy who played Burke in Aliens as like the corporation, new face of the corporation coming back.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just somebody like that who, because I like the guy who is in, the corporate dude who's in Avatar. I think he's wicked.
Yeah, agreed.
But I get the impression that that's him sort of done.
Yeah, 100%.
Tail between his legs.
100%. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if this is getting too far into this or it's something that'd be explored at a later date, but obviously Pandora, there's that bit. I'm gonna misquote it, so I'm gonna put it.
Yeah.
It takes X amount of years to get there.
Yeah, it's 6 years,
something like that, right? But I imagine, like with time difference and stuff like that, right? The company, they have 6 years to plan. Like there's something there about like they leave off world, and then is it the company coming back? I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I don't know if this needs to be explored.
No,
is it the fact that Pandora's massive and the company actually had shitloads of these places, and that's just one site down, and these other sites have like seen what's happened, or are they all gone and they've come back? In which case,
I got the impression that like from the movie that like this was just their dig site and that's it.
Yeah.
And now like once again, it's my personal thing. I think it's ridiculous, but like it's a story, and that's this story. I got to keep my shit
agreed.
out of it.
So then, in which case, obviously they would find out pretty quickly what happens. Life goes on. It's 6 years in the future.
Yeah.
These guys have had 6 years to plan what they're going to do when they get there.
Yeah.
Like with their infinite resources.
So I think like the 6 years is good because that gives us time for Jake to have had kids and stuff like that.
It does.
And I think also when it comes to like the corporation, I think that them not going back to that site and just being like, it's just too much trouble. Let's go out to sea.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what I wanted to say is that, like, because Jake did that trip, so the Nahari don't understand it. Like, they don't get it. That they understand that they're not from their world, but they don't understand it.
No.
Whether I imagine, like, it would be cool at some point for Jake, like, to establish that his kids, one of his kids, twins, whatever, are 6, and that's when his paranoia starts to kick in, or something like that, of being like, he knows it's imminent that they're coming.
Why don't we have it so that like so I'm just trying to like line up the thought. So basically that like Jake is he early on Jake's hanging out with his kids and they're doing all this sort of stuff and she, you know, his wife would be saying to him, oh, you know, everything's going great, and he's just like, you know, it's been 6 years since they're gone. They should be coming back, and that's the perfect transition point to seeing the dig site at sea, like with them starting to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where we intro that like the new corporation guy kind of like going around being like setting up shop and just starting the big dig site. Shout it out, Michael.
So I've got this idea of like, because you're right, the company would be like, look, doesn't matter, because he says that it's the biggest deposit of unobtainium in 20 clicks, right? But when it's a spaceship, it doesn't matter that it's 20 clicks.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're right, that they would drop the oil decks somewhere else completely, right? I'm seeing it visual of like, it's the 6 years, so he's like, I don't know if they'd be like, it's your 6th birthday party, it'd be like 6 cycles.
Or maybe they do like something like, you know, when an avatar becomes like a man or something, there's some sort of ceremony, and they're sort of saying, you know, he was just a boy when this happened.
Exactly.
And it's like,
and then, but I've already got it in terms of, I've got how Jake and the scientists would meet.
yeah,
I've got...
do it.
So basically, I've got this idea of he goes back to the base. Like they've moved away. A home tree's gone, so they've moved. And when it hits that 6 years, he goes back because he's waiting for them. He goes back. He's already geared up. There's nothing there. It's just the facility that's overrun and everything else. And then going through, you know, he sees the avatar machines. There's that kind of like
Nice,
reminiscent thing.
Yeah.
And then just seeing some radio signal and seeing something and realizing like, how the hell's there a radio signal? And that's what makes him realize that they're back. They've just not gone back to the same point.
And so then he can kind of go to the sea and the edge of the water.
Yeah, he's then searching. So Act 1 with Jake is he can't let go that they're going to come back.
That's his struggle. Is that like, yeah, and that's his journey, is that he's starting off not being able to let go of that problem and that feeling.
Exactly.
And by the end of it, he's overcome that.
Yeah.
And the bits in between are actual humans and rival tribe.
Exactly, yeah. So it starts with him being too paranoid because of what's happening. He realizes what's going on. The other tribes stop him. He realizes, gets back, and it's the kind of like he was right all along, but he's actually more ready than he thought he was.
So just to kind of like line this up a little bit more, we have to deal with this sticky wicket in a second, but starts off with like some sort of celebration thing where, I won't do it on there because we're not quite at that point yet. Let me do fucking hell, Matt. So it's sort of, is that like some sort of celebration thing where it's like the kid has come of age or something, they've been on a hunt or whatever, and it's like that's been 6 years. And so he goes back to the place, sees that the place is all empty, all this sort of stuff, and is like, gets wind of something's up, whether it's like, they say some radio thing's on or like something's changed, and he's like, this doesn't give. Goes, you know, sort of talks to his wife about it, it's like, well, something's up, and she's like, well, you know, you have to just go see for yourself. He goes to the beach, sees the dig site going on. No. So he, when he says it's been 6 years, that's when we see the dig site happening out at sea with the big drill bits and all that sort of stuff. So now we lined up. We know something Jake doesn't know. Jake goes to the beach, sees what's up. He sees him out at sea there, goes back and starts to try to tell him. And they're like, oh, well, this could be a problem. And that's when we start to introduce kind of like the enemy within stuff, which is like a rival tribe or something, which is being kind of like, maybe we could do like a apocalypto random tribe coming in and attacking thing. That's a bit lumpy, but can't line that up yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you completely. I think it's got to be his desire, his panic, and everything else. I'm just thinking like he has kids, right? So I think they might need to play a bigger part than exposition. What if, let's say it's twins, okay?
Twins are good.
Twins are good. Well, let's say if it's the son can't deal with the fact that his dad is the most famous, because after everything he's done, technically what he is as well, because he looks slightly human, do you know what I mean, and everything else. And I'm wondering if it's like, there's something in there with the son, so like maybe ending with the son disowning his father or something like that. But like, so at the beginning, like you've got a rival tribe making it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the person who somebody's talking to his son, putting these bad thoughts in the son's mind, and that person putting the bad thoughts in is the spy.
Is that throughout? So throughout all of this, his son is just his son, right?
Yep.
But he's clearly doesn't like his dad. There's some issues there and everything else. And by the end of it, this idea of setting it up in the future is his son goes off like angry with his dad or something like that. Yeah, but 6 to Earth years to get there. We don't know how long their planet's been circling. Maybe I'm stretching too much.
I like where you're. We got edge of something. What I'm worried about. We've got 35 minutes. So look, let's
35 or 5.
5 until the change. So
Oh yeah,
35.
of course. Okay.
So look, let's put a pin in that for a minute, and let's just deal with this main conflict stuff. So we got the drill site disturbs bog monster.
I think that's Act 3.
Yep.
I think that's Act 3. I think you could relieve the big creature and everything else to Act 3. I think Act 2 is...
what is the lion's share of this movie?
Okay, so Jake can't relax and he's at a war with a rival faction. He goes, thinks there's something there. At this point, he's like, it's one or the other. Like, they either join us or we take them out. He's that scared of them. There's a big fight, the middle Act 2 of the two tribes fighting. Jake and all the Nahiri that believe him that something is coming back and that they need to band together. And these guys that are waging. At the end of Act 2, it ends with a big, like, explosion like this. Everyone panics. And that's where, at the start of Act 3, the drill going has summoned this. The tribes team up together to tackle this, but don't resolve their differences. Okay, they're just like, they've got bigger fish to fry. Yeah. Shut down the drill, or whatever it is. But at the end of that, what you have left is the enemy chief Navahi. We're just going to call them avatars.
Call them what they are.
Well, technically he's the avatar, but it doesn't matter. The avatar, they've shut down the drill, but you've got the company that are now pissed, and you've got the enemy tribe. I don't think that it should be hand in hand. We're happy again.
I think though what's important is that, like, you know as well as I do that even though like this is setting up for like 7 movies and stuff, and like Marvel are the fucking masters of this kind of like put something 10 minutes into the fucking credit roll which you have to sit through. The thing is that their films do tie up in a neat bow. The only one which didn't was obviously Infinity
War. Yeah.
So we do need to kind of like finish whatever this is.
And I think that's it. I think that's stopping the company and stopping the monster. But I don't think the tribes should just band together. Everything's okay.
No. So, but I think that, like, once again, like the nature of these films is that they are actually at all ends quite nice. Okay. So I think that, don't you think? Because like they don't really have the blue people. They've got like that sort of. They're clean as clear. They're nothing. They don't do anything bad. The worst thing which they do is one of them kind of like is a bit mean and takes a piss out of them a bit.
Yeah.
That's it. And like the fight is always this.
Yeah.
It's never nature versus nature.
Yeah. Okay. So then, in which case, Act 1 is scientists doing some research and keeping a slow documentation on where Jake is because he's a threat. It's like company men, scientists doing this stuff. You have the tribe make an attempt on his life and Jake can't let it go.
Yeah.
Act 2.
I like the way you've done the 3 though. I think that's really cool. So if like obviously Jake's life is the middle thing which it all goes on to.
Yeah.
And you got science stuff happening over and away, and then you got corporation happening off and away.
Mm-hmm.
And like what was cool is the way that like they all end up kind of like intermingling with this sort of thing. So you know the science people are looking at like they're aware of Jake and that sort of thing. So that's probably the thing to open on, is that like it starts off with the scientists doing like wondrous science and stuff and looking at those rocks, and we don't understand what it is. It seems to be some sort of interdimensional thing which is doing it. How's Jake doing? Well, we see he's doing these reports, and that's our moment to come in, and we see Jake doing some sort of hunting thing or something like all perfect and at one with nature. And then they have like, well, this is the time when you become a boy into a man, and he's like, yeah, great. So they have like a kind of ceremony, usually some sort of dancing thing and music and all that sort of shit. And he's like, it's been 6 years since those bastards, 6 years, he was a kid when they were last here. And that's when we see what the corporation's up to. And we have like a new craft sort of landing down, almost like Darth Vader turning up in Empire Strikes Back.
Yep, love it.
And it's just kind of like seeing the dig site out at war in the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, what's going on here? And it's like, we think we're going to be able to do this sort of stuff. And he's just like, and to think that idiot was wasting all this energy on some goddamn tree when we got all the unobtainable we need out in the water.
Yeah.
Cuts back, and this is where like that's sort of like that. I guess it'd probably be Act 0.1, kind of. I don't know.
No, I think that's Act 1.
Because we haven't got the direction yet. So like,
I think
this is setting up the scene.
Yeah, I like the idea. We are running out of time. I think Act 0.1 starts with an assassination attempt on Jake. Right? I know you're saying that they're rivals, but in their minds, they're like, he is human. That's why they don't want to fight the other Nahiri.
No, I very rarely will I be like, I don't know, man, because the thing is that like these guys, they're like everything good. So they don't have racism. They don't.
I agree, but
petty
when
infighting.
he shows up in Avatar, half of them hate him. They hate him, and there's that bit where they tie him up, as in to sacrifice him, not because he's bad, but because he's not one of them. He's not one of their people.
I get it. We've got 30 minutes, so you don't need to like labour the point. I understand it. The thing which I think is like what is kind of like at fault with that, as I say, I'm with you. Believe me, if I was infusing my shit into it, I'd be like, yeah, make these guys a bunch of petty, bickering, infighting assholes. But it's always got to be the focus has always got to be the natural versus the man. And as soon as you lose sight of that, you get like because he is meant to be one of them now. He's done this transference. They did all the big ceremony. They all went to fight over with him. They kind of love him, and he's like the savior from high above.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah,
because he's like the leader of them. You know, like everyone's
but
like
he's the leader of that particular lot. I'm talking about he's gone.
He went to all the other tribes, and he went there giving them the brave heart, and they were all like, "We're with you, Jake Sully."
Yeah, okay, maybe.
And so I think that the focus is that it's got to be that kind of thing of like of the corporation fucking with Jake's world again, and that's where we get the bickering and infighting. Is that they approach some other tribe who are who are sea people, sea tribey stuff, or live on the coast or something, and they're just like, look, as I say, we need to get some skin in the game. Reason why the corporation is going back to do this, but some reason they're just like, you know what? Like, I also kind of want to stick it to that Jake Sully dude. What have we got? You know, could we? You know, they start to interfere with this tribe, and that's really Act 1. Is that like you've now got like a rival tribe which are being polluted by man with machine guns? Because once again, it's nature versus that.
Yeah.
No,
so
they've given them guns. Yeah. They've given them digging, and they're polluting and perverting a tribe.
Yeah. So there's a line in. Bear with me here on this. I'm running out of time.
No.
There's a line in The Sum of All Fears where he talks about like Hitler wasn't mad, he was stupid. And he says, you don't fight America and Russia, you get America and Russia to fight each other.
I remember it, yeah.
So what if this company man is already, his whole bit is, you know, you don't go to there, you do the hard bit and get this, but then he lands and he's like, you don't fight them, you get them to fight each other.
Perfect.
And so he lands and all this stuff.
That's beautiful.
So then this...
I'm going to write Sum of All Fears to remember that, because that's perfect.
Yeah.
Some fear.
And so the company man is laying it down. He goes to them as their friend, offering them tools and stuff like this, warning them of the white devil that's out there that's going to...
And they lap it up.
Yeah, and they think that they're helping them and
And
everything else.
life is getting easier because they've got washing machines, they've got
they've got technology, they're helping all of this stuff. In the meantime, so Act 1 starts with the company landing, and you think they're going to take this tribe out, but they're like, hi there, how you doing? Kind of thing, like a friendly interaction. Act 1, we got Jake, he can't let it go. His wife's getting annoyed at him because she's like, we're in a time of peace. He's not in peace, he can't relax. He eventually goes back. You can see that perhaps he has a run-in, or he's heard rumours of this tribe.
So maybe that could be a moment to start to begin to interact with the scientists. Do you see what I mean? Or like
so he heads back to the
old
place because he wants to check, where he runs into the scientists and he doesn't attack them. He's begging. They're there like, we've just been doing this research, Jake, and stuff like that, because his friend stays behind, so maybe his friend's there as well.
And he's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
they're sort of saying, oh, we've found out what's going on with the rocks and stuff, and he's just like, dude, we're past that.
And then his friend is like, we got a big problem.
You do know something's up. Yeah.
And then he's just like, these radios for these military and stuff like that, we've had no need of them. He's like, I took some batteries out the other day to power something up, and I'm getting this.
This is perfect.
And he's like, there's a frequency. So Jake's like because he's not military. When Jake went in, one of the big things it was Jake was military, the other guy was a scientist.
Yeah.
And so that's why he was sent afterwards, because they actually
survived.
had a soldier.
He lived through it.
He did.
Perfect.
So he doesn't understand, but Jake's like, this frequency is a military frequency. Yeah. That's why you're not picking it up.
And so they're like, so that is the kick. That's the thing which makes Act 0. That's the thing which makes Act 1 start.
Yeah.
That they now know bad guys are here. We're off. This is good. Yeah. We've only got 24 minutes.
That's
Jesus
fine.
Christ.
So then Act 2 is Jake encouraging the tribes that they need to do a preemptive strike, because he's like, if we don't push them back now, they'll get too strong.
And at the same time, somewhere in the depths of Act 2, we could have, that's where you have your assassination attempt from this evil tribe, which are using
guns,
firearms.
Exactly. And then they're more worried about the tribe, but Jake's like, it's the company we need to worry about. So the Nahiri are like, they're trying to take out our king, we need to deal with this. Jake's like, forget me, forget them. It's these guys we need to worry about.
So then the scientists are beginning to kind of like, or maybe at sea, maybe this is where this can start to happen, is that like out at sea, there's kind of like, let's say some sort of like weird thing going on. There's some sort of like, we can have a bit of like the abyss or something happening, that like there's something weird.
Yep, I like it.
In the water.
The scientist then comes back in Act 2 to warn Jake.
As in this Avatar scientist.
Yeah, the Avatar scientist, he comes back to warn Jake to be like, this stuff came from the sea. That's where they'll be. Because Jake is trying to find them. He can't find them. He's like, they find the company.
Yeah.
Because he knows they're back, because he's seen the military sequence. When the other tribe, the evil tribe, attack him, they're using guns. He's like, well, where the hell did they come from?
Yeah, so
he's trying to find them.
Yeah, this scientist is like, look, we were sort of saying, we were telling you earlier on, and you weren't really that interested about this stuff. It's in the water.
He's like, it's got fossilized things, which you can only find out in the sea. It's like, I found a clam on it.
Jake's like, okay.
Yeah.
And
then Jake realizes at this point the evil tribe hit, and they take out and they kill the scientist. They kill Jake's friend.
Yep.
So he's dead. So then Jake...
in the science compound place.
Yes. So then Jake is like, they're at the sea. These guys have killed my friend. We're going to war. Takes the rallying party. The opening of Act 3 is if you imagine you've got the company here, you've got a line of bad avatars, and then Jake and his avatars. And the start of Act 3 is Jake. He's now also focused on them, because this bad guy's leader has taken out his friend, but he wants to get to them. The company are like, this is working great. They're fighting each other. They don't give a shit about us. Keep drilling. During Act 3, we have the start of the battle, which halfway through stops when they hit something. They awaken the sea monster, and these tribes team up together, and you can have the company man seeing... They wouldn't be, but if you can imagine they were red and blue, he sees red and blue fight, and he's like, happy days.
You could see that on a computer screen to illustrate.
Yeah, and then they turn, and they're like, it's failed. And that what he's actually done is, by summoning this thing, he's united the tribe. The company man's united the tribes, and under the thing of Jake, they go to try and stop the oil drill, to stop this giant creature from destroying whatever it's going to destroy.
Yeah, I think if we set up that the water's scary by early on, when Jake's like says to his wife, like, it's got something to do with the water or something, they're like, we don't go in the water.
Yes.
And
so she's like, the furthest our tribes go are the coast. Like,
and he's like, don't you think that's strange? And they're like, we just don't do it. You know, and it's like part of, they would have like some nice kind of beautiful poetic language to kind of illustrate it.
They'd be like, the roots of Award cannot extend beyond, so we don't go there.
It's like, or just you're just in the shadow of its leaves or something. And,
nice.
And so we really set up that there's something seriously...
It's ingrained in their culture that they stay on the land.
You don't get it in the water.
Yeah, which is why which is why when the company men come from the water, the other tribe are more believing in them because they've only ever heard myths of like the power of the water and all this. The company men come in like, I don't know, boats or
Cool boats,
or like submarines or whatever, and this tribe that are on the outskirts of the coast are kind of like, they know the myth, they know the rumors, they
also,
see these people.
Also, they got like, life's tough there for some reason. Like that's a really good device to put in this, is resentment. That like life's harder for them on the coast for some reason. Maybe it's like shit weather, or like maybe it's like Avatar wouldn't do shit weather. Maybe it's like lots of lightning and storms and stuff.
Yeah.
And like something to make life tough there. So the thing which makes them more, able to kind of go over is bitterness. Because that's like kind of, that's the thing which kills any spirit, right?
It's the idea that that not much grows where they are, so that they spend their Avatar's all about balance, right? It's like our land we give to Awa, Awa gives to that. Whether they're not getting anything from their land, so their culture is all about what you can take.
Yeah. I mean, once again, we can't make. I think
they're not bad. They're not bad, but their idea is that it's like they're a bit tougher than the other avatars.
Yes, I think I'd say like that. I think if it's like more about like kind of resentment, that like if that sort of thing of like the soil next to the sea is not as good, and like the creatures next, and it's that sort of thing of like it's that petty. It's the stuff which is like kind of like poisons people, makes people bad.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like stupid resentment? It's not stupid actually, because it's like fair enough, life's tough for them.
Yeah.
But and especially when they can see that there's these guys loving life, fanning around with like little floaty things which lands on them every couple of minutes.
You know what I'd kill for one of those seeds?
We're nearly there. Like I think the thing which would be cool is that like this end bit, if the deep sea bog monster, right? Like if you know that like I think the threat of it should just be kind of like universal, right? So like as it sort of comes up, like the humans are fucked because this thing is just this kind of like weird, as I say, some sort of like.
But would you have that in Act 2? I would have that at the...
No, yeah, so it's Act 3, so, excuse me, 2's sort of setting it up, and it's like Jaws, you know, that there's something weird in the water, and it's kind of like...
Well, maybe they can be warning him, like, before he turns on the drill, because, you know, in Avatar, you've got Sigourney Weaver's character that's yelling at him and stuff like that. Like, these company men have gone out there, they have some scientists, and they're like, we don't know enough about what's underneath there to start drilling.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like our scientists, which have been on the planet, have got a clue.
Yes, but they're ignored because they see them as dangerous. They're trying to communicate to them like, don't start drilling.
That could be the exposition to help get us across about how dangerous the water is. So we've got the natives on land being like, we never go in the water.
Yeah.
And then you've got like the scientists being like, these floating rocks seem to have something to do with there's something down in the bottom of the water here, which is kind of like making some weird shit happen.
And so then the scientist essentially has 3 points. It has he's the one that lets like Jake know about the equipment Jake's puts together that the military are here.
Yeah.
He's the one that then tells Jake that they're in the water and that there's something up with it because of this. And then he's the one trying to warn the company people when the rival tribe attack, he gets killed. Jake goes to stop them, the tribe, there's a big fight, and then halfway through, the company, not listening, summons it, things starts coming, the tribes band together and overwhelm the oil rig to shut it down.
Yeah, so does the bog monster go away when the oil rig is shut down?
Yes.
So it's like a fight onto the oil rig to turn it off.
Yeah, and then when it does, the thing settles and everything else, and it's kind of like things have been a bit calm. Now, what that could mean, you can take it off. Maybe it's been there this whole time, maybe it's awoken, but I hear what you're saying. It's wrong to leave it on a dun 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 cliffhanger. It needs that. So the thing retracts into the sea and they've stopped the oil rig.
So do you think the main battle is on the rig then, just to kind of hammer that home?
I think
that's the thing which wins the bog monster.
Yes, I think like the shutting it down is like, you know, if you blow this up, you save the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, something that
kill the oil rig, and it's the vibrations of the drill.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of
It's like we need to shut that thing down. Or maybe the idea being is this thing is so huge and horrendous that it's like the vibrations are waking it up. It hasn't actually woken up, and so all it's doing is just kind of like, you know, when you're half asleep, like just like swatting, and they're like, if it keeps going, it will wake up properly.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And so the idea is to shut it down before it wakes up, because they've seen these giant tentacles or whatever it is.
I think it should be because once again it's that wonder aspect, but wonder can tiptoe into just despair.
100%.
As just kind of like seeing like this weird, so like super. It's Lovecraftian tendrils of just weirdness.
I also think what would be cool is because if you imagine this is the scene, you've got the avatars here fighting, and you've got the oil rig here, right? That drills all the way down.
Yeah.
And then you've got like this big tentacle thing up like that. And this is when they stop, and then they go to fight this to turn it off to stop waking it. What I do think would be cool to have is a brief moment in there, the new company man who probably gets killed in a gruesome way. Yeah. What would be cool before he dies is for him, maybe we don't even see it, but for whatever the drill is mapped it. So we only ever see the tip of whatever it is underneath. What would be cool is before it goes is for him on the monitors, whether we see it or not, for him to see the scale of what he's actually done. Like there's this giant tentacle there, like, Christ, what's coming out? We better shut it down. But the company man sees like...
Maybe it could be like some sort of, you know, it's James Cameron thing, so maybe it could be doing like an active pulse or sonar thing, kind of like the motion tracker.
Yeah, and then
and one of the ping back is it, and he just gets to see the horror.
And he sees, and then it's like it comes out, and so we see the like where he is at, and it comes out big enough.
That could be quite like, once again, like, it's maybe a bit kind of too weird and Lovecraftian, but like if somebody sees it, it comes for you. So like because he's in this control room, he's sort of seeing this thing. The thing pings back, and it's like, you know, it sort of comes up to kind of silence. So basically, when you look at it, it's now coming for you.
Maybe. I mean,
is it too weird?
I don't know if it's too weird. I think it's more the fact that, like, I mean, everyone's just seeing this tentacle and they're terrified. I like the idea of the company man being like, that's it. It's like this. It's like I'm on top of its head. Like I'm not. Like we're so dead, and it just the thing smashing through.
What would even more scary be the enormity of the problem is like way over on the distance. Do you see what I mean? And so you got across the ocean, and you just see this.
Yeah, exactly. And then they shut down the drill.
The water starts to recede as it's kind of like starting to move.
Yeah, that's really nice, because then that's what gets the Nahiri starting, because having avoided the water their whole lives, the avatars, as the water recedes, they start stepping onto it, and then they make that last leap, because Jake, being human, is not afraid of the water.
They won't go in the water.
They won't go in the water, but as the water starts to recede, it can also add a little bit, tiny bit, of the kind of like religious element of Jake. Because obviously, like, he's this spiritual, he's another human.
And so
and as he walks in, the water moves, they follow him, and they trust him enough to jump in. And in doing so, what's left of that tribe that have spent their entire life afraid of the water see this guy tackle the water, and then they're like, we're wrong.
And once again, like, that's the thing, is that, like, it's these people are good guys, really. So these being won over by an act like that rather than some sort of elaborate fight makes way more sense.
And it's also the fact that it's their, like, you know, it's their culture ingrained. He's their thing. I think so. It starts with them fighting, and Jake's just not fighting them. He's fighting to get through them.
I think what we do, I think we're there. We got 11 minutes to kind of like really button this up nice and neat, because this is going to take some fucking explaining. It's actually not that bad. It's not that bad, as in complexity. So we start off with Act 0.1 is effectively this big protracted catch-up sequence. So if we...
May I just wipe off my shit here?
Yeah. Let's do this. Right. So that might have been a bad idea. Let's have a look though.
Oh no!
So we got going to make this nice and big. See how clear we can make it, because we've got 10 minutes to try to make this nice and neat. So actually it's a little bit longer, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like that, and then like, probably like that. So act 0.1. Make sure everything's still recording. You guys are still there? Hello! So we got this big beginning bit where it starts off with, did we say we start off with the scientists who then go check in on Jake? Wasn't that it?
No, I thought we started with the company, like, because we know from the beginning that they're there, Jake doesn't. So that maybe it's the beginning starts, we didn't actually nail down that 0.0. So
that's fine. So I think you're right.
The company arrive and their first act is coming out of the water and greeting the rival tribe.
It was, if you remember, it was the scientists go to check in on Jake. Then we find out that Jake hasn't been able to let it go. It's been 6 years since, they should be here by now. That's when we see them sort of arriving, kind of separate. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So it goes with like science. I can't spell.
Yes.
Help.
SCIENCE.
Science man.
Since
man, that'll do. And like, so what happens is that since man is kind of like doing stuff with the floaty rocks.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little bit more Act 1.
But they're just kind of like, oh, isn't everything great here since we were in Pandora and doing science? And isn't that interesting? Has anyone checked in on Jake recently? Yeah, well, we can have a little look on him. And we go, ping back, and we're with Jake, who's doing a hunt, and like it's a kind of like big celebrate man, boy to man type,
or name day, because he's still 6 years old. And like, to be fair, Jake, when he's,
I don't think it'd be some other random person in the tribe.
Okay,
and
yeah.
then you sort of say to them, you know, they'll be sat there in front of the fire with his wife, and she'll be like, oh, isn't it great he's done this? Yeah, well, he was just a boy when they were last here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's been 6 long years since whatever.
Yeah.
So boy to man, and then he sort of like goes, been 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years, and that's when we see the corporation. Fuck, Matt. That's a good sound. So corporation turns up, corp, and they're turning up at sea.
Yep.
And so what are those cats up to? They were like, why did we even bother with the tree? This is stupid. That guy before us was dumb. And then it's like, and battling the...
Do we see that all at the start? I think we just see them arrive and heading towards the tribe. We don't know at this point. We assume that they're about to start a war. We don't see it.
Yeah, so we sort of, and we just have the corpos turning up.
Yeah.
And doing corpo things. So like they've got planes landing and
the coastal avatars sit watching this.
Yeah, and like it's literally coastal avatars. Yeah, just sitting there watching.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call them Bad Tribe just because to help us, right? Bad Tribe.
That makes sense.
Watch. Okay, and that is a hell of an act. 0.1, and I've got it written there. So now we're on to
Act 1.
Yeah, where Jake goes
to the
science guys.
Yep, and then at the science guys, his friend is trying to explain to him about what they've been doing.
Science. Mm-hmm. And talking about rocks.
Yep.
Talk rock.
And Jake is talking about like how he knows they'll be back and they need to get ready. He then he sees something like he's used batteries and he's like, oh, that radio is always going red. And then Jake panics and he's like, what is it? And he's like
always going red. You know, like, are you sure? He's like, always. And it's like, yeah.
He's like, that's a military frequency.
Yeah.
And so then he realizes, he's like, and then the scientist guy's like, why would that be going off?
Jake knows.
And he would say, it's because the military's here.
Military.
Yeah.
And so then he was like, goes back to the tribe and tries to convince them or some shit.
Yeah, he goes back to the tribe to try and convince them.
And then I'll tell you what, military, that's our point to jump back to corpos talking to the Bad Tribe.
Yeah, and giving them weapons and everything else.
Bad Tribe deal.
Yep. Then it's Jake trying to convince the people that they're here and that they need to look them out. And obviously they're really reluctant because last time loads of them died. And I imagine in their lifetime, that's probably their equivalent of the World War. So they're like, it's peace. If they're somewhere else, like, leave them. Like, why does it bother us? And Jake's like, if they're here, it will affect us.
So you've got
maybe
Jake,
not now, but in the future.
Jake doing some convincing there.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is the time when these guys do the assassination attempt, was it?
Yeah, no, they attack. So Jake then goes back to the facility with some of them to gather more information. And at this point, the bad tribe attack
Jake or his tribe.
Attack Jake. And what's with his like posse, I guess, like his group, they just make an attack.
So they go back to the site. So Jake at Signs.
Yep.
And then like there's the bad tribe.
Yeah, so when Jake's on the way there, it's when the science guy says to him about the rocks. Jake's like, I don't care about the rocks. And he's like, it's fascinating though. We discovered this weird sea crustacean. And that's when Jake stops and is like, what do you mean a sea crustacean? And again, it's Jake that puts together these things must originate from the sea. And he's like, that's why we haven't seen them, because they're not here anymore. They're out there. And at that point, when he realizes the bad tribe attack.
Bad tribe
Attack.
Assess. Assassination attempt.
Yep. And all it does is kill Jake's friend.
Nice scientist man.
Nice scientist man, who is a scientist.
Nice.
He's a human. He's not in the human
Scientist.
avatar body. Because obviously all that's shut down.
So is that the same guy from Avatar 1?
Yeah.
Who is in Dodgeball and things
Yes.
like that? That guy.
Yeah.
So he's
dead.
Jake's giving out that face he does.
Yeah, that angry face. What's left of his posse turn around to him and say they're back, and there's these other ones that have got guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, because when they attack with like guns and shit.
Exactly, which is why like it might not just be him dead. Maybe it's a couple of his friends. They get back and they're like, this has happened. They've got weapons. Jake throws it on the floor. The others are like, we have to fight.
I love that. Jake throws gun on floor, and it's like being customized for Avatar hands.
Yeah. And they see this, they realise how bad this is. So the war party starts up again. The war party head to the coast.
So war.
Where these now teched out avatars are.
To coast. Now we need to stick in there quick.
At this point, before that goes on, you've got the company guy firing up the oil.
Yeah, because we need to sneak in here, like a couple of company moments.
Yeah.
So
Corpo. That's when the Corpo give the speech. Oh no. So this is then when them talking about the drill. Then after the assassination, they can be fed back, and they're like, they've just they didn't win. He's like, it doesn't matter. It started
yeah.
And that's when he gives his speech of the Sum of All Fears speech.
Sum of All Fears.
Yep. And then it goes back. You've got the war party. You've got the start of a fight, and I mean the start as in like all the avatars coming in.
Yeah, so it's good tribe versus bad tribe.
Yep, checked out.
Yeah, so good v bad.
And Jake is losing.
Start.
Yeah.
And it's like a talky, argy-bargy, but then like, or is it straight away into bows and arrows and machine guns?
I imagine with them having killed his friend, Jake would just be like,
bows and arrows and machine guns.
Bows and arrows and machine guns. Just like in Avatar 1, they're starting to lose. And then just as it's like Jake's about to be dead, you could have like one of them with a specialized gun pointing at Jake, and then and they look up. The oil rig has then gone down. We cut back to the company men that's like, what's that? And they're like, just push on through. Whatever silly fish it is will soon bugger off or something like this. But these guys stop fighting.
Yeah.
And they start to panic. Jake's like, what is it? And they're like, they mention this myth again.
They got a cool name for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so we just call it.
It's like Leviathan is like the Lovecraftian thing.
Cthulhu.
That's the super weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leviathan is this kind of thing.
So it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
take your pick of
exactly.
cool names.
And then they are terrified. This is when the company man then sees the scale of it and starts to panic.
So we got 30 seconds. We're actually kind of like with that. We need to make sure we stick like another corpo, some like other oil rig stuff. All right.
Yeah,
it just needs to happen.
Yep.
Just to kind of make it. Otherwise, it's like,
yeah.
Where the fuck was that through this movie?
Corporate guy realizes they're screwed, tries to bail. The thing smashes it.
Corpo screwed.
Jake realizes they have to shut down the drill because that's what it's interested in, not them. It's going after the drill. He's like, if we shut that down, it might go away.
Shut down, and we got the C retracting.
C retracting.
As the thing's basically getting up.
Yep. 5 seconds. C going. Tribe believe he's new Jesus. Follow him. Shut down the oil rig.
And
water stops.
There you go. All right, let me just finish writing this down. C. Oh, I was right. Sea creature, water, back, Jesus. Because the whole thing is like there's a lot of metaphors for Jesus and that sort of thing in this anyway. You're right. Your microphone playing Merry Hell. We're still recording.
Still recording. We're good.
Jesus and then shut rig.
Shut rig. Tribe celebrates, ending with Jake like it'll be back. I've got it. It's not a throwaway. It's not anything else. It would be absolutely brilliant. Okay, I really love it. Avatar ends. How? Like it's the front cover. It's like it's the eye opening up, right? It's Jake's eye.
Oh yeah.
What if the ending of Avatar is whatever? We're in the bottom of the sea. The sea eye opens up.
Yeah, and then in which case all of this is referred to as it sleeping.
Yeah. And then at the very end of the film, the weird Leviathan eye, it goes in just like it did at Avatar, and his eye opens up, and that's how it ends, which is a really nice callback to the end of Avatar, where the Avatar's eye open up is peaceful and hope. This one is a...
And it's always, and like, so throughout all of this, it's referred to as the sleeping...
Yeah.
And you know the way they sort of compound words, it's like sleep, Leviathan, sleep...
Yeah.
Cthulhu or something.
Whatever, the resting or the sleeping
the
or
resting twat.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the last one of its kind. They've misread the oil rigs as it's pure unobtainium, but it's not. It's actually the source of unobtainium, and they're drilling into it. So it's like, fuck off.
And it's some weird, like, through it's literally like, you know, the way it's sort of affecting the rocks and stuff. It's like some sort of weird interdimensional.
Yeah, 100%. I love it.
Space.
And it ends with the eye opening up, suggesting that whatever this thing is has now been awoken on Pandora.
Yeah, like rather than like this nice eye, it's like.
Yeah, exactly. Like a creepy kind of like.
Multi sort of.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, we went a tiny bit over our hour, but not to come up with ideas, just to finish this off. And we wrote the word "I" down, so I think you can forgive us on that. Well done.
That's Avatar.
I see you.
I see you, Mike.
I see you, Matt. I see our 3 acts.
I see my pen lid.
Do you see? I see.
Right, so look, actually that's good because we need to pack this up and present this thing.
Yep.
All to the musical accompaniment. Who did the music in Avatar?
James Horner.
So, to the musical accompaniment of James Horner, and much to the delight of the YouTube algorithms.
Look. Like, come on, that's like, it's the artwork of so much of the...
Hang on, maybe you'll see it there. There you go.
See what I mean? Like, come on now.
All right, let's present this thing, see how he got on.
Chuck those over there for us.
Yep. I guess I'm lifting it up again, am I? And by the power of... Are we going to do it?
We'll do it together.
2-player?
Yeah, 2-player. Like the tribes of the Nahi.
Still can't pronounce their names. All right.
On
that bit there. Yes. Avatar,
yes. The highest grossing film of all time, where they invested literally $1 billion into 3D technology and stuff like that. Have we been able to do justice to this soon-to-be film franchise with 2 marker pens in a garage?
A cold garage. It's only going to get colder.
Yeah, I know, right?
So look, Avatar. I think let's start this thing. So I don't know what we're going to call it, but we've got Avatar Water.
Yeah.
So some
Avatar 2: The Awakening.
Nice. So, okay, it opens with Act 0.1, and help me out with this, Mike. So, where do we start off with? Science Man.
Yeah, so in the first original Avatar, one of his friends that is also an Avatar is a human. At this point, technology's failed, so he's back to being a human, but he's working on there. He is asking, they haven't seen Jake for a while, they've been doing some research and everything else.
And that's when we cut over to seeing
Jake. He's with his tribe.
They're off hunting, doing tribal
he is
things.
the chief, he's a celebrity, and there's one of this little couple that their son is of man age, are humbled and amazed that the celebrity Jake is at their son's thing.
Yeah, and he's like, and they're like some sort of like coming of age party thing where you get 6 years after the fact,
and all the avatars are like, oh my god, it's Jake. Like, they're big fans, even though perhaps he's not running it, she is. He's like beloved.
Yeah. And so there's like a nice quiet moment away from the main party, sat around a campfire or something, and he's chatting to his wife, being like, it's been 6 years since he was a kid, it means that they'll be back or whatever.
So Jake is like, this 6 years marks, like, they could now be back.
Yeah.
Like,
and so
we then see,
we cut to corporate turning up.
Yeah. We see the coastal avatars, we're going to call them avatars as we've established, terrified as the water starts to move. It opens up and it's these corporate people coming out, like welcoming, and they're kind of staring at them in fascination, and there's this kind of pause.
And then we're into the main body of the movie, which is Jake going to see his scientist mates.
So Jake can't let it go. She suggests Nahari, I've forgotten her name. She suggests that he goes to visit the site to put it to rest, to let it go. So he goes to go visit his science friends, where they start
kind
talking.
Of nicey.
And they start talking about the rocks, and he starts saying about this.
So those weird floaty rocks from obviously the first movie, and they're sort of saying that it seems to be some sort of weird interdimensional.
Yeah, he's like, the energy of this is not of this world, we don't think, and everything else. And Jake's like, I'm not interested in rocks, I want to find them. It's at this point that he's then like, well, we're running out of power here as well. Like, there's only an X amount here. So I've had to borrow batteries, and now they're flashing red. And he's like, they shouldn't
do that.
Yeah, and he's like, red. He looks at it and he's like, this is a military frequency. He's like, they're already here. We then cut to the corporation with the tribe, showing them these weapons.
And they're basically kind of winning the tribe over with dishwashers, machine guns, and VCRs, the things which win over any nation.
Exactly. Jake is back with his, so that's the end of Act 1.
Yeah, and so now we're into, because that's the setup, so now we're in the body of it, where Jake goes back to
tries to convince his tribe. They just want peace. Like, they love him, but they're like, this was the biggest battle, we lost everything, we lost our home, like, leave it be. If they've left us alone, we leave them alone. Jake goes back to the scientist.
Just, if I can, do we just cut in this point? We maybe see some more oil rig action going on. Some of the corporation doing corporation things.
So we see that they're up to their old tricks. Although at first they're all nice and nice, we then see actually
and maybe we see some kind of like cool vehicles moving about, big sort of
bigger mech tanks as well. So like,
stuff.
Cool shit.
Okay, so we're back. Sorry, Mike.
Yep. So Jake's then goes back to the scientist guy. The science guy is saying to him, these rocks are amazing, they've got something, and then Jake puts 2 and 2 together and realised that unobtainium must come from the sea.
So exactly that. And then this is when there's the
hit. Bad tribe, or some members of the bad tribe, start attacking. They take out a couple of avatars
because they're attacking with machine guns and things like that
have been designed for them.
Right.
And they kill the human scientist, Jake's friend.
That cool guy from Avatar 1.
Yep.
So then Jake's now got some gun proof.
Yep, but before that we cut back to the oil people that say like they've engaged, and he's like, this is great, you don't fight them, you get them to fight each other and step back and watch. He's like, now if we get any tree huggers worrying about it, it's infighting, and we promised we wouldn't get involved, like joking around that they're not there to disrupt the order.
Beautiful.
Jake then goes back to his people, shows them the gun. They realise what this means. Yep. They also lost sons and daughters in this fight, and they also like the scientist guy. They're with Jake. They go fight.
Yes.
Jake summons another war party. Yep. They reach the edge of the coast where the bad tribe, as we're calling them,
which they're at the coast, as we established at the beginning of the movie. And
Jake sees in the distance the oil rig that's been built. The oil rig turns on.
Yeah, it's like, I reckon, belching kind of big black smoke out of it.
Just
and all the
absolutely awful. You then start getting the bit of the bad tribe starting to waver, like what's going on here.
This is where there's an actual fight starting with these guys.
And now Jake charges after it. there's a bit of a fight, obviously because they've got the tech, they're winning. But then during this fight, we start to get what we are describing as a sleepy kind of sea monster.
So through all of this, there's kind of like hushed tones about the water. So back here, when Jake's sort of saying about like, you know, they just throw a little snippet about the water or something, and she's just like, we never go in the water. There's some sort of, you know, you let sleeping big Leviathan monsters lie or whatever.
Yeah.
And similarly, the avatars, we know it's not what they're called, but help us out here. That those at the coast are always sort of saying about like there's something weird in the water, and they call it something kind of groovy.
Yeah.
And now, sorry, Mike, where do we leave?
So now, as they're fighting, all of a sudden, the water starts to starts smashing maybe a few villages on the coast. It's swatting. The bad Nahiri stop. Jake stops. Jake's then saying to them, "We need." Like, that's the real problem. At this point, the corporation realise something's going on, and
I think like when this thing starts to move, like it's like earthquake stuff.
Yeah.
The water's going back, and what would be a lovely shot is if we're on the beach, we're then fighting, and the water's going back because this thing's effectively standing up or moving. And then you cut to inside Corpro thing behind their glass, and you just see all the water just kind of rolling back.
Yeah, sick. And then the main bad guy sees like what it is, freaks out, and at this point, as he goes to leave, part of the thing gets hit and he gets crushed underneath something.
As this is going on, like this big weird, so the oil rig is, if you haven't figured it out, has woken up this massive, weird, deep sea monster, like loads of tentacles and weirdness to it. That's thrashing around
100%, and it's taking out the village, like towns. At which point, the bad tribe realize that this thing is destroying their village. Jake's like, we need to stop this, so they team up.
As water's going back, Jake's the first one to step on the wet sand effectively to walk out.
And then they see this, and then Jake goes into the water, and they realize like he's the first one, and they then follow him. They get onto the oil rig where you can have the two tribes, or the multiple tribes now, working together, trying to fight this off. I figured what was left of the company men as well would just be shooting blindly, and then maybe start trying to take out some of the avatars. So they're fighting the corporate people, the big machines we saw way back in the beginning, taking them out, and Jake is able to shut it down, and it all kind of resides. This has now cemented him as he's some kind of massive spiritual guru. All the tribes are like bowing to him. He looks off into the distance thinking like we've stopped it, and it ends with like Avatar did with the eye opening up. It ends with whatever this thing's eye opens up.
Yeah, so I don't know if we made it clear enough, but just once again that like this whole kind of big weird bog monster thing here is kind of like mentioned throughout as some big weird sleeping creature, and so obviously the oil rig's woken it up. So that needs to be peppered in there, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we need to see it until we get to this point, but it's talked about this idea.
It's Jaws.
Yeah, it's that the water out there, like it's always bad.
And they're scared of the water.
And they're scared of the water. And then at the end, we see the eye opening up. Hence, Avatar 2, Awakening. We think it's Jake awakening. We think it's Tribes awakening. It's not. It's this
Aquatic awakening.
Aqua awake.
I like it.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's very, very tight. I think you were saying early on about not leaving things on it, and who's this character? But I do think that this little bit at the end is a nice nod to the first one. Yeah. And it suggests that this is the prelude. I think it stays true to what we agreed was the original parts.
I think we had some backwards and forwards there, some argy-bargies, but that's the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a very good sequel. Yeah. Now, might add, we are recording this video months before the film is released. So if it turns out we were anywhere near right, then, I don't know.
We want to check.
I will check who's actually watching these videos, because maybe good old Jim is watching us and that's what he decided. But I think for Avatar...
Yeah, that was fun.
That's good.
Nice.
Want to do this again?
Well, we should do. It's not quite cold enough in here yet, but I'm sure it's going to be in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so
Christmas is coming.
What do you want to do for Christmas?
Well, why not the ultimate Christmas movie? And we've just done the biggest franchise. Let's try a really hard one. Yeah. Really hard.
Go on, you call it.
Like a Die Hard. See what I did?
See what I did? Horrible.
Next one we're going to tackle is Die Hard.
Yeah, so if you feel like watching that, come join us then. But for the moment,
I see you.
I see you, Mike.
I see you, Matt.
I see you.
I see you.
I like the film.
Play the music.
I'm gonna close my eye.